we really did ourselves a fucking discredit. I couldn't believe editing that podcast. I'm like, wait, this is episode 50, and we didn't bring it up once. So I think we need to do it a little justice and talk about.
This is an A plus transition. We've done it 50 times and we're still working on stuff, guys. But yeah, insane that we made it to 50.
Bang bang, stealing Moses' phrase. We're back yet again.
Bang, bang.
Another podcast. We have a lot to talk about. Mainly the two giant sporting events that happened. You know, we got the UFC with Conor McGregor and that whole shebang, and then we also maybe got to talk a little bit about the Tampa Bay Lightning and what they did and how they won. And there's so much for us to talk about. And the fact that we had an episode 50 last Friday and we just
completely brushed over it.
We completely talked about
it at all.
Nonsense. I was editing. I'm like,
we didn't have enough to talk about last episode.
I think we were on like a short little time. We were on like a little time restrict, but like, I'm like, why didn't we bring up the most important thing? We made it to 50 episodes. But before we dive into that,
huge weekend for sports.
This weekend was
unreal.
Crazy town.
It was always a sad. I look back at the time that I spent at TSN. This is always this, and this wasn't always this weekend, but this was a sad weekend because you saw the end coming and you knew that for the rest of the summer it would just be baseball, and you're like, oh, I have some long nights ahead of me.
Baseball and golf. What else? Driving.
Some tennis.
F1
for all my tennis friends. I know nobody that plays. Do you play tennis? I should have said that.
I grew up playing tennis, and it was like my
such
sport.
A waspy sport.
It was so
my
sport. Dude, that was like, well, everyone, you're growing up, you're playing multiple sports, and then you start to like narrow down, and like I was narrowing down into like hockey, tennis, like tennis in the summer, hockey in the winter, and I fucked my elbow up real bad. Had to quit playing tennis because I couldn't play. It wasn't tennis elbow. It was like this other degenerative disorder I had where like, I don't know, my anatomy wasn't aligning properly, and I chipped off all the cartilage off my right elbow. Extreme pain, couldn't straighten my arm. But you know what? That's terrible. For another day to talk about.
Does it ever act up when you spend 6 hours of your day in an editing suite? Is that ever a problem?
I got elbow surgery in like when I was 19. It changed my life. Like,
that's why you didn't make it pro.
That's exactly. And coach was a dick.
Perfect. Didn't play me enough.
Yeah, it was his fault.
Perfect.
So let's just jump into it first. Tampa Bay Lightning, back-to-back champs, and I mean the media coverage post cup win. I mean, this is the funniest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. We got Kucherov, just one of the star players on Tampa Bay, being like, "Oh, Vasi's the best," and like, "Who's that guy who won Vezina this year?"
He's just pretending like he doesn't know Marc-Andre Fleury's name.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, this is unbelievable. I wonder what his sobering moment is going to be like when he's like, "What did I say? What did I say on public
I don't think
TV?
He cares, man.
How did I act?"
I
just find that so funny.
I love my favorite thing that's come out of the celebration so far is that Kucherov signed an endorsement deal with Bud Light. Just amazing. So you can win back-to-back cups, and if you bring out a Bud Latte, as we like to call them in Thunder Bay, for your press conference and just give 0 Fs, you might get a deal with Bud Light as well. I thought it was real smart for Bud, though. Like, that's just like the perfect capitalizing of the moment kind of story.
They kill it, man. Even that like Post Malone like deal they have, it's like, what a perfect partnership. Like, this guy drinks Bud Light in every single music video. He's always talking about it in his music or like IG and stuff. It's like, why not just latch on to degenerates if you are a like alcohol brand? Like, you may as well just go with the guys crushing the beers and acting like a complete goofball while on them. It's like, it's only gonna help.
An unreal roster. I feel like Post Malone, if he is like, if you compressed every single dude that drinks Bud Light, you get Post Malone. He's the perfect spokesperson.
He really is. Okay, well, there's not a whole lot to talk about. Is there anything else you want to say about the Tampa Bay Lightning? I feel like just
they broke
funny...
the cup. They broke the cup. I thought that was hilarious. They broke the bowl of the cup, and this is one of those things where, like, I'm sure this has happened before, but this is like before the era of social media, because there was a story that came out that NHL officials put like a robe or a blanket or something to hide it, but somebody snapped a picture and put it on social media before, and there's a massive dent in the bowl.
Ridiculous.
Just insane. These guys have already won it. They're like, we'll do whatever we want to the cup, whatever.
It's just outrageous. Well,
that's
the
it
next
for me.
thing. That was what day was that? Thursday or Friday or something like that? I don't even
Yes.
remember. Then we roll into Saturday. We got the big UFC, and I believe also Friday was like semis of like the Euro Cup. It was just a crazy weekend for sports with soccer, hockey, basketball still going on, and then the UFC. We got Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier in the main event. Obviously, there was Sugar Sean versus that fucking guy on like an 11-day notice. You got Wonderboy Gilbert Burns. We won't go into those nitty gritty deals, but the main event is what everyone was waiting for, and my God, did it sort of, kind of, not sort of did deliver. You know what I mean? Like crazy
It
drama.
delivered in like social moments and had people talking, and they're like, wow, Conor McGregor's like still talking shit with a broken ankle. And like Joe Rogan had like the most, yeah, it wasn't awkward, but he climbed down. He was like sitting
Snuggled.
down. Yeah, he's snuggling with McGregor. It
It was
was big
so
in
funny.
terms of moment, but it was such a letdown in terms of the fight.
Such a letdown. I mean, Conor McGregor lost the first round, and then to kick it off, he goes for like a rear foot, like a back foot teep kick, which is where like you put your like the ball of your foot in someone's sternum. It's like a Muay Thai move. It looks like he gets his where he broke his like shin, like at the base of his like shin to where his ankle meets. It looked like it caught the elbow of Poirier. And then when Conor took that step back and pivoted for a
Oh,
punch, you just watched the leg snap. I'm like, holy fuck! Like,
where do you stand on every single sports outlet just showing slow mo replays of the thing? Are you a kind of guy that like wants to watch that, or you're like, I could probably do without it?
I don't give a shit. I
You
love
don't
it.
give a
I
shit.
just like I like seeing it all. It kind of like it's like at the Euro Cup final on Sunday there was a streaker. I don't know if they were naked or clothed, but like they don't show it to give attention. Like I kind of wish they showed it. Like there's
Yeah,
entertainment value in that. There's like you learn a bit about people and things when like you see the shit you're not supposed to see. I get
yeah,
why they don't show it. But like I don't give a shit. I'm like it's gross, but like who doesn't like looking at things that you don't want to look at? Like everyone kind of wants to see it while not wanting to see
absolutely.
it.
I wanted to say I'm the kind of guy that if I know somebody will find it gross, I find a huge amount of satisfaction with showing that person the replay and
Forcing
just
it down
seeing
their
the
throat. Yeah.
reaction. Yeah.
Putting them on the full court press. Uh,
Unreal fight. Here's some statistics that I wanted to. I'm a stats guy, stats podcast, stats guy.
yeah, big MMA
For
guy.
yeah, a huge MMA guy.
You know so much.
For one round in the ring, Connor took. They're saying Connor took home 18 mil, and Dustin only took home 1 mil. What the freak? Does that sound like something? Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, because you also have to realize I don't remember exactly. You could probably see it in the replay. I McGregor has McGregor Promotions, and he, I believe, is one of the only. I think the only UFC fighter of all time to have his own promotion company that promotes inside the octagon, because it's usually the UFC that like monopolize that.
Yeah, gets that
But
space.
once McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather and established his brand like across the world and made $100 million, like he had that leverage where you
Is
could
that
say,
good?
Dana White, I'm not fighting unless you put proper 12 on the cage and you
Yeah,
put McGregor Promotions, and that means that he gets a larger cut, likely of just like the gate, the pay per view, or justifies it in the short term cash, or the guaranteed cash of like his purse. So
damn. That's
it
exciting
makes
to
a
me.
lot of sense. Like he's a business partner with Dana. Dustin
Yeah,
Poirier is a subcontracted UFC fighter who gets paid
yeah.
a contract from one fight. You know, McGregor's a little more tied in. So it does make a lot of sense, especially what McGregor's done for the UFC. I mean, this guy, like, he brought the UFC to a point where they could sell for 4.1 or 4.4 billion dollars in 2016. It was that sale was on the back of Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, in that golden, or not that gold era 2.0 of the UFC after like the Chuck Liddells, Tito Ortiz's, and whatnot. We're going deep
Insane.
dive, baby. Um,
Another thing, we'll just keep it going. Another thing, UFC, something that I wanted to point out that I thought was really smart. They partnered with a bunch of movie theaters and had the fight streamed
really,
at a bunch of AMC locations. Yeah, which I thought was
that's
really
cool.
smart. Um, yeah, just really a distribution play, getting it in more. And for me, like as a fan, I've only ever done, if I'm not going to watch the event with somebody, I'm probably not going to stream it illegally or buy it. I'll just catch it on social. The buzz when you're with friends, unreal. I could not imagine going to a movie theater waffled with my friends and seeing it on the big screen.
One thing that's so special about the UFC is like the audio experience of hearing the crowd, hearing the crack of a kick, crack of a punch. You know, Joe Rogan offers a lot of entertainment. Same with DC and John Anik, I believe, is the third man. And like, there's an audio experience, and if you can be in a theater with those like bassy speakers and that audio system, it's like
Huge
that has to be better
screen.
than watching with just the boys at a house. But
Unreal.
what a crazy night! The Nelk boys were there. Addison Ray was there. Like the
Oh
whole,
my God.
like everyone who's like relevant was at this fight, which is cool. And I thought watching Tai Tuivasa, who was the heavyweight who knocked out Greg Hardy, which is a crazy story. I don't know if you know this. Greg Hardy was in the NFL, got kicked out of the
People
NFL
love
for,
seeing this guy get beat up.
well, he abused women. I don't know if it was his girlfriend or just a girl he was seeing, but like some horrible shit, man. He got kicked out of the
Yeah.
NFL for that, and then to see him get knocked out, people are cheering. Tai Tuivasa gets thrown a shoe by Steve Will Do It that Dana White
Oh,
gave him for Happy Dad. Gets a Happy Dad, dumps in the shoe, spits in it, and chugs it down. That was, I love that. It's legendary.
huge weekend for.
Legendary.
What would you call? I've heard people calling that a shoezy. I kind of like. I would roll with
It's
that.
called a shoey. Shoey.
A shoey. That's unreal. It's just disgusting, filthy, but I love that. And huge promo for Happy Dad. Not that they need the help with the marketing, but Jesus, they're just everywhere. And just to close on that thought, I think the UFC is really becoming like the go-to sporting event. Like I just feel like every single fight, or the big fights at least, you just see A-list people on A-list people going out to
Justin
those
Bieber,
events.
the elite
Bieber, Matthews, Joe Thornton, huge A-list
Jumbo.
hockey guy,
Yeah, everyone
Jumbo.
cares about them. Sad,
Yeah,
but
just such a moment. And it's almost sad seeing Connor lose like that, because like how many more big time fight, like I will always watch a Conor McGregor fight, but how many more of those does he have in the tank before he just becomes like the Jake Paul or Logan Paul prize fighter? You know what I mean?
well, he really was screaming. Like it just screamed. I was just kind of cringing when I rewatched the interview,
Post-fight
like the
interview?
post fight
Yeah.
interview. I was just like, oh no, man! Like lose with grace. Like he's playing this villain, and what's so awkward and like fake about it is that the fight prior in January, he was playing the I love Dustin. You know what? We had animosity in the past. I've made my millions, made hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm not here to like fight with grown men before we actually get in the ring and fight. I don't need chaos in my life. I just like a peaceful life. He gets kicked in the ass, gets knocked out, and then he thinks, okay, I need to be that angry guy, that like chip on the shoulder, broke Irish kid again, and fight that
Just
good fight.
completely
And
switches his tune.
it's like, dude, you're not that. Like, it just got cringy, and like he loses, and he fucking says, "Oh, your wife's still in my DMs." It's like, oh, that's
It's kind
so
of just
Jake
sad,
Paul. It's just kind of
but
sad, man.
definitely
Like,
teased up the next fight. I think Dana said that he wants to do a fourth one.
yeah, okay, Conor McGregor. How many weeks does he have until he can start training?
Right.
Probably 4 months if he really does everything right. So if I'm gonna bring it back in time, he fought Max Holloway before Max was a big deal, and this was Conor McGregor's like he was coming into his own. This is like his second fight in the UFC. Tears his ACL mid fight, trying to pass guard. Ends up fighting 5 full rounds and wins on a torn ACL, and he has to go through. And at the time, it was 2014, I believe ACLs take like 9 months minimum to recover. This guy went on a rampage of like dialed in focus because he didn't have money, so he had to just treat his body like a temple and recover the right way and do everything right. And rehab, I don't know if you've dealt with rehab before, but it's like
No ACL
painstakingly
injuries. So actually,
boring.
no
Like
major
not,
injuries.
yeah, just any major injury. There's the rehab process is like brutal. Like
Knock
it just
on
drives
wood.
you crazy.
My body's a temple.
He went through it and got back, I believe, in 6 or 9 months and was like 100% again because he focused through it. Do you think that he has the drive, will, and focus to stick through the therapy process when he has $100 million in the bank? Everyone's okay. He's done what he's set out to do,
No.
and now this is just for money. I don't know, and
Absolutely
that
not.
worries me. That worries me. There's no
And
chip
just
on
to
the shoulder.
close, he's only fought 3 times since 2016 in the UFC. I mean, that's insane. He's made 222 million from those fights outside the ring. This is the crazy stat. He's made 158 million. And so
Wow.
there's always been this kind of discussion that once you have the money in the UFC, like as much as you love fighting, how are you going to go back in there and be the same person that you were when you were on that crazy run?
MMA is not a regular sport. It's not like fun.
No.
Like it kinda is, but the training is such a slog and it's so brutal and it's dirty, it's messy, it's not glamorous in the slightest. It's only glamorous when you knock the guy out with your fresh haircut and you're talking to Joe Rogan saying like, we didn't come here to take part, we came to take over. That's when it's fun. But like the training, man, that's 6 a.m. sparring sessions with like Russian scientist experiments that you flew in. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not fun. But crazy event. I enjoyed the fuck out of it. It was fun to watch, but I kind of want
They
to
got
move on.
paid for what they did.
Oh, crazy pay. Actually, one last
18
thing.
schmil, 18 schmil for one round, and a torn tibia or a broken tibia. That's pretty good.
Fractured tibia and
Can
potential like
you
serious.
tear your tibia? Just sounded so dumb the second it left my
Yeah.
mouth.
And also potential like serious ligament tears in his ankle. Those are fun to deal with. Ankles heal well, right? No, ligaments totally heal. So last thing I want to mention is the Nelk Boys UFC partnership. It looks like they are in like a business partnership together. Like I'm watching like their vlog and like Dana White's like, dude, you guys come here, you put in your videos, you get us all these views, and you have like the demo that we want. It's like
Yeah.
young dudes that get crazy, They're down for that like male aggression type stuff. And like Donald Trump showed up. They say hi and hang out. It's like they really speak to this like interesting demographic that's massive in the States. Like it's cool to see them partner. And yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about that.
It's crazy that you bring that up because I am looking at a group chat right now and they're like, new Nelk is the juice right now, quote unquote, the juice. It just seems like my favorite part about the latest videos is that you get to see behind the scenes of that like VIP guest area, and it's almost like you're there. And you see Bieber coming through and Trumpo and all these people, and you're like, wow, this is the life they get to live now. And it's like that is almost a vlog or like a backstage marketing look that you wouldn't have otherwise got if you just got the pay-per-view. So there's tons of like interesting synergies there that they're just like, okay, I like you and you like me, and we're going to give you the custom Nikes and like the best seats in the house, and you're going to put us in your vlog that gets watched by millions of people. And it just
4
works
million,
for both.
yeah.
Yeah. Works
It
for
gets
both
watched
parties.
by 4 million people that we want to target directly.
Exactly.
Like the people that
Exactly.
we want. Young, impressionable men and women, mainly men, it seems like.
Mainly
that
dudes.
have a lot of testosterone and like weird angst and shit. Anyways, moving on. We really did ourselves a fucking discredit. I couldn't believe editing that podcast. I'm like, wait, this is episode 50.
Insane.
And we didn't bring it up once. So I think we need to do it a little justice and talk about, dude, we've made
This
it.
is an A+
50
transition. This is an A+ transition. We've done it 50 times and we're still working on stuff, guys. But yeah, insane that we made it to 50. And when you think about it, we were doing 2 a week for a while. But it's almost lining up where it's almost been our 1 year as well. So
Well, we only did 2 a week for 2 months. I believe it was
Yeah.
8 weeks. And chaos ensued.
and it was a lot of work.
It was so much work. We didn't have other work, and it was like, honestly, it was fun. It was a cool like chase. It was a cool like experience. But it is, the fact that we made it to 50 is crazy. And it doesn't, and I don't know about you, but like I don't even feel like it doesn't even feel like we've done a lot in a way. Like it almost feels like it's just normal now. Like I don't feel like, oh, we got to do the podcast. It's just like, oh no, we're doing the podcast. It's
Yeah.
that kind of feeling of just, it feels natural to me. I don't know about you.
No, it's kind of like getting into any habit, like getting to the gym every week. It just doesn't feel like anything after. It just feels like part of your routine, which is sweet. Other cool things. I've had friends come up to me and they're like, oh, like I get why you do this now. There's super fun synergies with not having to like cold email people for jobs or for work, and like meeting really interesting people and they're like, oh, we need a website, or oh, we need a video, and then having people that are just completely outside the space kind of like see that. And my advice for anyone would be like, if you are doing something freelance and you don't want to cold call or like work a bunch on marketing, I think podcasting is the best way to just get to know people in your space and also build some kind of reputation for what you do.
it also establishes this strange credibility that I don't know if it's completely justified, but there are not a lot, but there's people that come up to me that I know and they're like, "Oh, I see you're doing that podcast. It's so cool. I heard a clip or I saw an episode or whatever." And like you guys sound like awesome. You sound like you know what you're talking about. And there's that like
Makes us way smarter than we actually are.
it makes us smarter than we actually are, but it also builds this like it's the same thing as posting your work on your personal IG is people go, "Oh, they're the video guys, like they do this." And this further establishes their like foundation and credibility in this space. So and on top of that, what you said about gaining work, it's like you could have potential clients on the podcast and talk to them and be like, you know, let's just like hang out and maybe they like your vibe and they're like, "Oh, I like your work too. Let's work together. I know it was on the pod, but it'd be cool."
And it doesn't feel so selly. You're not like jumping down these people's throats right away and like, "Do you need a website? I saw your website needs some work." It's just like a very casual conversation. And you can help them too. You can give them ideas and they're like, "Oh, this person's not only smart at what they do, they're like a decent person. They're not trying to like sell me something right away."
And another aspect is also just connecting with creators. I mean, we haven't really worked with many outside of that, but like there are some people we've had
Kind
on
of
the
tough
pod.
in a global pando, but
Very tough.
we would
But
love to in the future.
I think we will. I mean, I think we will. And there's people that we know in like people like, for example, Blaze was like, "Yo, if you're ever in LA, just like shoot me a text and like, I don't know, we can hang out and do some work, shoot some stuff or just fucking chill." Like there's just connections, excuse me, you make that just make this whole process so worth it. But let's not over glamorize this. I mean, when was the last time we
Work.
posted a piece of content on
Oh,
our IG or anything?
not for a while. I've been busy with work. You've been busy with work. And it's one of those things, it's like the first thing to slide. Like we're just going to do the podcast and not do all the stuff around it to market it, which is one of the biggest, like not even just in podcasting, but just in like if you want to make a product or sell something on the internet. I think people realize after they put up their store that like the idea that if you build something they will come just doesn't exist anymore, and it's the marketing and all the work that goes on outside of what you're actually doing that brings people in. That's the grind.
It's such a grind, and for us it seems like whenever we like fall apart, it's because there's some sort of issue that happens. For example, I was moving plus work was getting crazy, and like the build up to a move and work getting crazy at the same time, it's like, how do I balance this? On top of that, just getting used to what work is like. I know you got really busy too the last like couple of months, and it's like we don't even know how to balance work in general, let alone work with passion in the podcast. Like just learning that, I feel like we're going to get back into it, but we always told each other from the start, what comes first, the podcast and actually getting the episode out. And we're not trying to make this our entire life. This is a part of what we do. And it's not like it's a full-time job we have to spend 40 hours on. That may hinder us, but at the same time, we just want to be able to talk and do this thing.
Absolutely.
And I think if we focus on the content so much and it gets in our heads, we might just stop the podcast.
And you become a nerd too. You become one of those people selling courses on Instagram. They're like, "Here's how to gain 10,000 more followers." And you're like,
Dude,
is this really where I want to be spending my time? And they're so expensive too. They're like, "Here's an $1,000 course to get 10K followers on Instagram." And I'm looking at them like, how are you going to make your money back on that course if you buy it? I just don't understand. I feel like it's a donation. Like just call it charity. That's what it is.
You may as well just call it an NFT. You buy an authentic
NFT.
course I made. Just fund my lifestyle.
Jesus, huge shot. One thing I will say quickly, I love cutting you off. One thing I will say quickly, one of the things that is beneficial about doing the pod is that it reminds you that even if you are working freelance and you have work in front of you and you're working on, it's so important to keep like marketing and put yourself out there and keeping that. If your main channel is Instagram, make sure that you're publishing videos and the work that you're doing, because it is the first thing that will slide. And you're like, "I'm so busy. I'm just going to work on the thing that's right in front of me." But if you don't keep those channels open and show people I'm still working, I'm here, I'm active, I'm doing things, you're going to get into a situation where you're like, "Oh, now I'm looking for work. And now the tap is kind of run dry and I don't know where to look." So I think the biggest lesson from doing the podcast for me has been just to make sure that you're staying on top of marketing yourself and being super open with what you are building. Have you felt the same?
Yeah, it's just I think one thing where I remember what helped our podcast a lot was just having guests. Like we've kind of I've been messaging a bunch of people. It's been very hard to get people on, just like people getting busy again and not being able to find time. But
Right.
I just want to get more guests on, and I'm hopefully I get some more in person people. It'd be so good to get on. I know a bunch of smart guys, interesting guys. I think it would be great to have on. But it's just about getting back in that flow as well. Just setting
Mhm.
up those meetings. But like, there's sometimes I'm like, fuck, I'm working a lot. I'm trying to get back into the groove of things and like build that momentum where like a long day doesn't really tire you out that much, and that takes a long time to like get used to it and build those calluses. And it's like sometimes I think about, oh, I gotta get this podcast edited or done or whatever, and I'm like, holy fuck,
It's a lot of work.
tired. I'm very tired. Like I'm
Just the
very like
grind.
I need a balanced life. And look at that, it's raining outside. That too.
Jeez.
Fucking, it's been brutal out. How am I supposed to be motivated when it's a gray sky?
One of the things that's motivating me lately is that I'm not waking up with that like quarantine feeling that nothing has changed and it's just like another day in quarantine. In Ontario, we've been like slow to get back up to speed, but July 16th is the big day where everything's going to open back up. I'm super pumped to get back into the gym. You can only do so many push-ups and pull-ups, but it feels like everything is kind of coming back to normal.
Oh yeah, dude. And I can just feel the energy in the city and in my friends. Everyone's like, they just got a motor on them now. Like there's
Yeah.
one guy we know. This guy, absolute motor on him. We go out like Saturday all day on the island. Then we go out to a party. We're up until really late. Then Sunday, I'm just beat up, just barely holding on, trying to drink some water. Couldn't even.
It's one of those Sundays.
Terrible. I'm watching the Euro final. It's a great game. England loses sadly. And then he tells me after the game, he's like, "Oh, you want to go to another patio and, and
You're
get some
like,
drinks?" I'm like,
what?
"Oh my god, this guy's got a motor." I'm like, "Dude, I gotta go to bed. I'm dying." And then Monday, I see an IG story, and he's out again at another patio. I'm like, "This guy's got an absolute motor." But you know what? It's not even chirps. I just wish I had that motor because, man, you got to make use of this time. We only have, who knows if there's gonna be a fourth wave? Who knows? The Delta
Yeah.
virus, or
Jesus.
variant, whatever.
I texted you the other night. The patio selfie or group pic is the Instagram story of the summer. You
It's
heard
the
it here
Instagram
first.
story of the summer. It is.
Yeah.
Mark our words. That is the IG. That's the
If you haven't
content
already been
piece.
seeing it already, I feel like it's like patio pic, something about the Catholic Church, defund the police, patio pic, patio pic, patio pic. You can't escape it
Oh
right now.
no, dude! I need to tell you about what happened yesterday at a shoot. This is just. I'm in it. Like I was. Where do I even start? I like prepared pretty well. Like I got up early. We had to go out to Oshawa for this shoot with American Standard. I think I can say that. I don't think that's a problem. Just doing like social content, making some money and working with some friends. Like it was a great time, right? So as we're going up there, I'm like, I have all my gear. Like I prepped in the morning, all the batteries charged, everything's good. We go through the drive. We're planning shit out in our heads. We get there. I opened up my like the case because my camera bag because I had to borrow my friend's camera for this shoot because my light camera like it's just broken right now. I have to get it fixed. So I pull out his camera that I've practiced with. I charge the batteries for. All good. Everything's great. I pull it out. I only have one battery.
I've been here so many times.
I have
And it's just
one
the
battery.
feeling, you can feel it like right in your face as soon as you're like, oh no.
No, you feel like your skin like jumps off your face. Like you're like you just feel everything. It's like Jim Carrey in The Mask. It's just like it's like your soul leaves your body for a second. And I'm thinking, what the fuck? I'm frantically going through the bags. I find nothing, and I text my mom. She's like, "You left the batteries in like on top of your bed that you charged in the morning or that last night or whatever." So I'm like, I'm freaking out. I realize, oh, I packed up my Black Magic as a backup. I packed a bunch of batteries. They're charged. And I have like this jumbo battery. I'm good. I have enough battery power for the entire day of shooting. We're good. All good. Everything's good. Right?
You
Wrong.
thought you sewered your oh no.
I take out all my gear and I'm like, okay, I have my SSD because it only takes CFast cards, which are these thick, really expensive cards. So I just have an SSD that I plug in through USB-C. and it's all good, right? So I take it out. I'm like, great, we have a backup. We're perfect. I take out the cable, the USB-C cable, and I plug it in, and I look on the other side of the cable. It's a USB.
Oh,
That can't
tough.
go in a camera. That doesn't go in a
Logistics are just
camera.
not your friend at this point.
So I'm freaking out. And I'm talking to the guy who hired me, who's like directing this whole thing and like did all the planning. I'm like, dude, we can't, we only have one battery for like the main camera. We're screwed. And we had to figure it out. We're looking up like places to get a different USB-C to USB-C cord. We're freaking out. And he's like, wait a sec. Do you have a power bank? And I said, no. We go to the audio guy there, who's a great guy. Worked with him before. He pulls out his audio bank and we're like, holy fuck, we can attach this to the camera, except it has to be attached to the camera the entire time. It's one of these fat like black boxes that you like plug into like your phone and then like portably charge your phone around the city or wherever you are. So we have to fucking tape that to the tripod for the entire day.
I love
and
this.
Got away with the shoot. Absolute gong show. I couldn't, like, my heart was it was like the first 45 minutes too. We were trying to figure all this stuff out while like the talent's waiting, kind of prepping things. I'm freaking out. Like, I thought I just ruined the shoot. And mind you, the drive out there from my house, which is in the West End, we went all the way northeast across the entire fucking city. It's about an hour and a half drive.
This is good. So you're
So that
pretty much
means
shit out of luck if you don't have this portable battery.
there's no chance. It can't even be Ubered out there. It's too far. Like, we are Fucksville. Like, absolute Fucksville. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
And you just have the panic alarms going off inside.
Panic alarms.
That must
But
have been a fun conversation when you go to the director and say, "Listen, we have one battery for the entire day."
It was one of those like, yo, Ethan, come here. Put my arm around him. Like, I'm really sorry. I don't.
I'm glad you
could've
opened up with, "I'm really sorry."
Like, I had to pull him outside. I'm like, I don't know what we're gonna do. Like, we might be fucked. We might have to schedule another day, and you'll never hire me again. He may never hire me again after that. I hope not. We had a great working relationship, but fuck, what a bad
Tough.
look. And then to make matters worse, he really wanted gimbal shots, and that's one of the reasons he brought me on, is because I have a gimbal. So I start putting his camera on the gimbal and balancing it, and this is after we got the battery thing figured out. I'm like, okay, great, one problem's done. Put his camera on the gimbal. I balance everything nervously. I almost forgot how to balance. I was freaking out so much about the battery thing. The camera, when I turned on the gimbal, the camera would not stop shaking like this and making like,
Oh, that's good for a gimbal. That's
like
exactly what you want
freaking
on a
out.
gimbal.
And I'm like, what the fuck? This gimbal is like very strong. It holds like a heavy weight. And I was like frantically searching online what's going on. And like, people are looking at me and like hearing the noise on the gimbal. They're like, does this guy even know what he's doing?
Is this his first time?
And like, apparently you needed to add more weight to the gimbal or to the camera because the camera was too light. So I'm like adding shit to it. I couldn't figure it out. So we pretty much had to do zero gimbal shit for the first half of the day, for the entire day, except for the last 30 minutes. When we got all the other stuff figured out, he's like, dude, we have to figure out this gimbal because I need gimbal shots for the edit. Like, I just need them. There's no way around this. I need them. So I have a picture. I'm going to add the picture to the podcast. The rig that we set up was an absolute joke. We take the giant battery like pack that goes underneath my Black Magic, which we didn't have to use. We attach that to the camera to add the weight. It still wasn't heavy enough. We're trying to add like mics to it, whatever. We end up taking a duck clamp, like one of these like really strong industrial clamps, and we attach it to the top of the camera on the viewfinder. And it was the perfect amount of weight that the gimbal worked seamlessly, and we got all the shots and nailed it.
So
Dude,
this is basically just a full day of just bullshitting around and trying to figure. It was just a problem solving day.
We looked like idiots, yeah. And
Yeah.
and like the person we were working with was like actually a very talented talent, like very well spoken, was just riffing and killing it, all while we were recording on a tripod with like a small camera. Like,
Yeah.
it's optically it's weird. It looks like we're taking photos. The image is great and the video is great, but it's like, how unprofessional did I make everyone seem? That
Yeah.
I was on that shoot I was hired on. Like, oh my god, I felt
Nightmare.
So bad.
That's nightmare fuel.
But we made it out. You know, it's what it is.
So there you go. I mean, I'm glad to hear that nothing went horribly wrong.
Well, the whole time I was like, we have the power source plugged into the camera and it charges the battery. And I was just watching the battery like it was charging the battery slower than it was dying. So the
Oh
whole
yeah.
day I was watching it die and I had to turn it on and off again. I was freaking out. I couldn't sit like I couldn't just enjoy the day. It was
This is like the
stress.
situation. This is a much larger scale of situation we were talking about the other day, where you are at like 5 to 10% phone battery, and you're just in a battle because you know that you have like 5 or 6 hours left in your day, and it's like there's no chance with all the stuff that I have to do that this phone is going to survive the rest of the day.
Zero chance. And
Yeah.
then what did you say? You're like,
Well,
that's just
I'm
usually
the kind
when
of
I
guy that I'll just let the phone die. I'll let the phone die. If people need to get a hold of me, they can get
they'll
a
have to
hold of
wait.
me the next day. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
I'll
great
I'll be
philosophy.
unavailable.
Like
Yeah,
what a thing to do to people. Just a great
terrible, terrible. But at a
great thing
certain
to
point, you have to let go. Just let let the day take you where the day has to take you. You'll figure it out. You'll use somebody else's phone
Well,
if it's urgent.
that's one of your downfalls, but I find that, everyone has their issues, their
Can't be
things
good
they're
at
bad at.
everything.
Can't be good at everything. And then on the other side, it's like, some people they make up for that downfall in other ways. And I think where you're very special is, you're an unorganized person.
Nightmare. You can say nightmare.
It's a disaster at times,
It's a
even,
disaster.
especially with this
That's
podcast at
why I
times.
love the story that you just shared. It's just like just a peek into a day of my life. And it one of the upsides to it is that you have to get real creative with your problem solving. You just okay, that plan A didn't work. You need plan B through D now. You have to try
Yeah,
everything
and
and hope that it works.
by plan D, it worked. And where I was going with my little statement there is that, you are very aloof with some things, and, it's like, what the fuck? How? And then on the
How?
other side, it's like, you're one of the most creative people I know and just have such good takes and, like, can just understand how to come up with ideas and conceptualize and, like, help. Where you come into my life so well is, like, with work, especially, or mainly, is that you guide where I'm headed sometimes, where I'm like, I didn't even have the perspective of that. I'm like, I don't even know how this guy does. So I kind of want to talk about, and maybe we can close on this. I want to talk about, like, coming up with creative ideas to market for brands. And specifically, I want to talk about that video I sent you on Instagram by Karen. I really don't want to get her name wrong. Karen X Cheng on Instagram, at Karen X Cheng. She did a video for Logitech, and it was this, like, stop motion mouse video. And I was like, this is so, like, easy and doable, but yet, like, how do you even think about that? Like, that idea is so creative and smart. It's like people aren't paying for your technical ability, they're paying for your ideas. And I feel like, personally speaking, and even speaking for maybe a lot of creatives we work alongside with, or our peers, they're just good at making stuff. They're not good at coming up with ideas. Like, where does that, like, that's where you make money, and where you actually influence culture is coming up with ideas. How do you fucking balance that, trying to be good at something versus coming up with ideas? And is it just you have to hire someone who's good at ideas and you make the content? I want to get your take on this, because I think I struggle with this a lot, is coming up with good ideas versus making quality production.
So they're two separate skills for sure. I think if somebody was looking to get better at making ideas or coming up with ideas, I think it's a skill like anything else that you can practice. And I think a lot of people, especially those people who don't think of themselves as idea people, would benefit from starting really small. So whether that's taking 10 minutes at the end of the day just to say, okay, I need 5 ideas about, I don't know. Now I'm on the spot. I'm the ideas guy. I don't have ideas for you.
I think what's something that you do really well is, like, you just watch a lot and, like, absorb a lot, where it's like you just come up with do you think it's a matter of consuming more instead of working
Yeah.
more? Because I almost feel like videographers, they're just always working. They're not, like, discovering or consuming enough.
Well, one of my big beliefs, and whether you work freelance or you work for an employer or an agency, is that you have probably, like, most people have 4 good working hours to the day where they can be focused and, like, get some stuff done. And in those 4 hours, they probably really have 2 hours where they're really dialed in, and the rest is kind of just figuring stuff out and preparing. All of that time outside of that of the time that you are working, I spend a lot of that consuming stuff. So I I think me and you will send each other anywhere from like 3 to 4 pieces of content or videos or just stuff that we like online into a DM, into dark social is like the cool content strategy people say. But I think you should find people who have like similar interests as you, and you should just bounce ideas off them. I think part of looking at a bunch of stuff is knowing that, oh, like Will is going to think that this is really cool. Or if I'm back home in Thunder Bay, I'll send my friends like mountain biking videos and say like, oh, check out this video. It's so sick. Got me so hyped. So it's really about finding a community of people that have some similar interests and values to you. Because honestly, like the social piece of it is what fires me up the most. And I'll probably consume like anywhere from like 100 to 150 pieces of content that I really like. I can take some kind of lesson or learn something from. And from those, I might pick like 10% of those to share with people. And so it's all like this really big treasure hunt, I guess, every day that keeps me like interested and passionate about these kind of things.
Are you taking notes on that stuff? Because sometimes I feel like I watch stuff and I'm like,
Well,
oh,
no,
I'll
I'm not like
incorporate
busting
this.
out. It's that'd be a complete
The
hardo
notion.
move if you're
But
busting
it
out
is
the
the note.
notion and being like, oh, here we go. I like this transition at 7 seconds. No, I think it's easier for design stuff and for writing stuff because a lot of the time these things just end up as screenshots where I'm like, oh, that was really smart, or like somebody had a nice take on Twitter where I'm like, oh, that's really smart. And those are situations where I'll just throw a screenshot. Like if you looked like nobody can, so I don't know why I'm saying it, but if you looked at the notion that we used to prepare for this pod, there's like 7 or 8 screenshots of stuff that I saw on Twitter that I thought was really cool. We're not going to talk about all of it, but it's just like ammo. It's like you have a million notes and you can take 5% of them and apply them to a project. But that could make all the difference in the world.
Mm-hmm. I just feel like, yeah, it's like consuming and then cataloging what you consume in a space where you can like rewatch it and like always have it and kind of keep a tab on the things.
Yeah.
But I almost think it's like I feel like there's a lot of people, like these creative people, they kind of like they put more time into coming up with cool ideas rather than just being like making pretty images or pretty things. And I think that's something personally I want to do more, and it's personally something I think I want to see more creative people doing. It's almost, this is my call to action. It's like, can we emphasize less on gear and like I want to shoot this in this way, and more of think of it like, how can I package this thing I like to capture and create about, and like how do I package that in a way that's a little bit different? Like where can I draw from to add to this? Like what are ways I can do that? And I look at this Karen Chang girl, I'm like, the shit she's doing with 3D video and with that stop motion, it's so interesting, it's so different. I would just love to get her on the podcast and just hear about like, how do you come up with these ideas? Like, are you just naturally an ideating person and then you started learning video? And then that maybe even, I'm rambling a bit here, but that maybe even raises the question, personally speaking, or the other people who don't have a lot of ideas, are they more of the camera operator type person, and that's where their role is in society or in the industry? Or is it that they naturally fit into that role and that's what they should double down in? Or is it that they just don't put in the work to come up with ideas? Same thing. We've talked about that in different ways as well, with just, are you an entrepreneur or are you an artist? And how do you play into those strengths?
One thing that I would add is I don't think one is better than the other, but I think understanding where you fall on that spectrum is important, because if you know that, like for me, I'm lopsided towards more of the ideas and consumption and just coming up with a bunch of crazy stuff. If you do notice that you're in that camp, it's awesome to have a friend that's completely on the other side of the spectrum, because you just complement each other so well.
Mm-hmm. And that's where we got so much value out of each other at Ryerson, is like, you came with the ideas and then I kind of came with like this like weird like structure of like,
how is this going to happen?
Business.
How can we make this happen?
Like, is this going to be on my hard drive though? You know what I mean? Like I want it. Like, let's go kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's where you complement each other.
And one of the things, so if kind of like one of the insecurities or conflicts with the people that are super good at operating is that they feel like they can't generate a ton of ideas. One, speaking from the other side of it, as an ideas person, I feel like it's really easy to get overwhelmed and you're always kind of chasing that next shiny object. And you definitely do feel some insecurity about not being able to follow through or finish ideas. And not, I would say that I'm much better at, I'm really bad at efficiency. I'm not good at getting things done. Which is why for me it's really important that I'm effective and that I take the time. Like I'll start, because I'm so bad at this and I can just jump around a million places and get nothing done in a day. I need to take 5 or 10 minutes at the start of the day to say, like, what are the 3 to 5 things that are stressing me out the most? And often those are things that got punted from the previous day, that or longer projects that I'm working on. And then going even smaller than that and saying, like, if I could only accomplish one of those things today and knock that off my list, what would that be? And then from there, I just chunk out 2 hours. That goes back to like previous conversations where we're like, I mean, it's kind of like a hardo move to say, I'm going to block out my time, but I really need to get 2 hours of kind of focused time where I'm not worrying about email, or we're not worrying about getting back to people to work on this one thing. Because going back to what I originally started with, like I really suck at efficiency and getting things done. So I need to be effective with picking the right things and prioritizing my time.
It's the biggest trap. I personally I fall into. I'm sure many creatives do as well. Freelancers, it's like you really should be diving in deep on some of this like work, like making the content, making the art, but there's also so much pre-planning and balancing other projects where, you know, you're in the production phase of one while also in the pre-prod of another and maybe in the post-prod of another. All those are different mindsets and they get overlap because you're working with one client who's on this schedule and the other client's on that schedule.
Absolutely.
It's like,
and you want to give all of them like the A+ service, but I mean, it's tough just balancing everything.
And that's where charging, sorry, go ahead.
Just to finish that thought for you, charging for all of the stages of production is super important. You're not going to think I need to charge for this meeting at the front end, or I'm not going to have to charge for extra rounds of revision at the end. But you need to be able to budget those things in, because it's just going to be time that you lose. And then the thought that I was going to jump in there with was, post-production will be the first thing to slide if you get really busy with freelance clients and managing a bunch of people. But that's the biggest thing for getting work down the road with that client later on, and them thinking of you and saying, oh, like we left on a really good note, because they have that lasting impression that they felt they were really taken care of because you took the time to do a review and a post-action report on the project and say, okay, this is our goals. This was our goals coming in. This is what we did. This is how it's going to help you reach XYZ. And this is like, I love giving people free strategy or advice at the end of a project and saying, like, looking forward with what I know about what we did and kind of where your business stands, like, here are some of the things that I would be looking at 3 to 6 months down the line, and saying like, oh, these could be real levers to pull on your business, and say like, this is kind of where you would get the most bang for your buck, whether it's content or website or investing in video or photography, whatever it is. I think kind of the takeaway for me is that if you leave a really good lasting impression with that last interaction that you have with the client, it's just going to raise the likelihood that they're going to go to you and say like, hey, listen, we have this new thing. And whether that's 1 year down the line or a couple months later, just make sure that you nail that kind of like post-production meeting. And that's something that I think I picked up from you. So there's your roses for this episode from
bang,
me.
Bang. I love that. I love that as a closer. Let's wrap this up. It's been a bit. I just want to say thanks everyone for watching. And I want to give a couple shout outs. I don't know if Mo's been on the YouTube lately, but we've been getting some comments on our videos and I've been trying to reply to some here and there. And I just want to shout out Slumber Visuals. Left us a nice long comment.
Slumber. I love that. Slumber.
I thought it was a really thoughtful like comment, and it's just something like he actually listened to what we said and like reflected on in the comments, and it just like warmed my heart. So I really appreciate your comment, Slumber Visuals. We got Tala Pervez commented, such a good, useful podcast, or such a useful podcast, not good, useful. Really appreciate that, man. That's on one of our Call of Duty ones. And then we got Kevin Kabuckets said, wow, keep it up. This fire on the Allen episode. We really appreciate your comments, guys. We hopefully can, build this community and build, an audience that we can speak to that loves us, because, we love anyone else listening to us. I'm getting really sappy now. I'm going to go. This has been great. We'll see you guys next week. Follow us at RnR Podcast everywhere, including YouTube. Leave us those comments. Tell us how we do. And that's it. Ciao.